Brock Purdy's got another injury to his shoulder, to his throwing arm. Should the Niners give him $50 million a year, or is the Super Bowl window over? We'll discuss that and more next on the Players Club. What's up? Welcome to the Players Club. I'm Grant Cohn. That's former 49ers wide receiver Kevin Jurovich. Kevin, thank you very much for coming on the show today. Why don't you tell people who aren't familiar with you what you do, where you've been?
Man, it's been a long time, Grant. So a long time ago, it's over a decade now. I used to play for the 49ers on the practice squad. Before that, at San Jose State, we just linked up a couple of days ago. And I wanted to get on the stream. I've been a CEO of a tech company for the past 5 years. So most of my calls are related to tech. So this is a treat for me, man, just to be able to kind of talk about my first love, talk about football and do it with you. So looking forward to it.
All right. So Kevin was in the NFL. Kevin has an inside understanding of what goes on in the league and what goes in the 49ers organization. And he's a local guy. He's from San Jose. He went to Valley Christian. He went to San Jose State. And he's living out here in the South Bay still. So as someone who's got an eye on the Niners for a while, someone who's been watching their quest for 6 unfold for a long time, is the Super Bowl window closed?
Man, the quest for 6, ever since I was in elementary school, right? This has been kind of the motto out here. Mm-hmm. I think if we're just being real, right? Take a step back, take maybe your fan hat off out there. The window is closed, right? Like last year, everything lined up perfectly. The NFC was weak. The best teams, if we think about it, were probably Green Bay and maybe Detroit. Mm-hmm. They were up and coming. They were not established. They hadn't really made any playoff runs. It was all lined up for them. The AFC has been stacked for a minute, but in the NFC, it was all lined up. The NFC West was pretty weak. The roster, the 49ers had been there so many times. They had won NFC title games. They had lost NFC title. They had been to a Super Bowl and lost a Super Bowl and knew what that felt like, right?
And it was healthy-ish and not too old yet.
Was it? It was healthy. Yeah, it was super healthy. Like not even healthy-ish. It was super healthy, right? One of the top healthy teams in the league. And I don't care what he says. I don't think Kyle Shanahan knew the rule. And in overtime, when he said, we're going to kick what do you say? We're going to kick it?
No, we want the ball first because we don't want Patrick Mahomes to get the ball second. Oh, well, he's guaranteed to get the ball second. Oh, well, we want the ball first so that we get the ball third. Oh, well, they were going to go for 2 if they got the – oh, well, we want the ball first because our defense was tired. Like, what?
Get the ball third was one of the most crazy things I ever heard, right? Like, obviously, you don't give Patrick Mahomes 4 downs to get a first down.
Right.
And I think even on that final drive, did that happen twice? Did they have 2 4-down conversions?
I believe
One
it
or
did.
2, but is it closed? I hate to say it. It is. Last year was it. Like, they were head and shoulders better than any team in the NFC, and they fumbled it away at the end.
Yeah, and now they're not head and shoulders better than every other team in the NFC. The Lions have clearly passed them. It's going to be ugly this week in Green Bay, most likely. And it's old. Like, what is Christian McCaffrey going to be like next year, even if he has a full offseason? What is Trent Williams going to be like next year? George Kittle's having maybe the best season of his career. Can he do it again next year, or is this a team that's full of diminishing returns going forward?
Yeah, what's crazy to me? Talking about CMC for a second, right? These are serious injuries he's dealing with. And if you watch the Detroit Lions play, they have 2 great running backs, right? 2 great running backs. Just watch the way that they give Montgomery a series and then they give Gibbs a series. If it goes longer than 7 or 8 plays in that drive, they'll rotate the other guy in, right? Mm-hmm. There's a couple things that does. Obviously, it keeps them fresh, but also people are competitive. So if I'm a running back and somebody else is getting carries and yards, I'm naturally going to run a little harder, right? And it's crazy to me that when CMC comes back with Achilles tendonitis or whatever he has, he's literally playing 95% of the snaps on the heels of a guy, Jordan Mason, who's looking like Marshawn Lynch half the time, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, man, there's a lot of things that are up in the air. Is the window closed? I think it is, unfortunately. But I think the faster 49er fans get behind that, the faster the organization gets behind that, the quicker they can move on.
Yeah. So, okay, let's be realistic about where the Niners stand. They're probably not going to make the playoffs this year, and they do need to do some reloading, reshuffling, rebuilding. And it starts with their decision at quarterback. Brock Purdy will be eligible for an extension as soon as the regular season ends. Going rate for a top 15, top 10 quarterback in the NFL is $50 million plus per year.
That's crazy.
And that's been kind of recent. Do you think the Niners should join that market and make Brock's dreams come true?
Man, that's a lot of money. That's crazy. I remember when Patrick Mahomes signed his deal, I think he's making 45 or something. That was crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a nuanced question, but I think if we just look back, let's look back at the modern era of the NFL, last 2 decades. And I'd encourage everybody to do this. Go look back at the last 20 years. Look at those Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. Just look at those names. It's like Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer. There's only 2 names that I don't think one for sure won't. I don't think the other will either. Joe Flacco, right? Joe Flacco, we remember that playoff run, obviously. We remember that Super Bowl where the lights go out. But that playoff run that he had was epic. And he was still on his rookie deal back then, right? So this is not taking $50 million on the salary cap. The only other quarterback that's not like first ballot Hall of Famer is Nick Foles.
Right.
And if we
I'll run down the list real quick of names of the last 20. Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Nick Foles, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Joe Flacco, Eli Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady.
So there it is, right? Like, I mean, that's case in point. So the only other one is Nick Foles. But if we look at that objectively, that was actually on the heels of Carson Wentz going 14-2 that season.
Mm-hmm.
Philly was the number 1 seed. Nick Foles kind of just slid in there, played 3 games.
Yeah.
So if we just look at history, and I think success leaves clues, right? If that's the list of quarterbacks, I think Brock Purdy does a lot of things very well, right? I think like he plays the position extremely well. He's athletic. He's cerebral. He has great instincts. There's a lot of things that you can't coach that he has. And I think that's even why he's able to have success at any level. But when we talk about like elite traits of those quarterbacks, it's not even close. Right. So I think fortunately for the 49ers, they don't have to make that decision right now. And if we wanted to just look around the league, who else has paid quarterbacks that amount of money and how are they doing? Right. Like Tua. How are the Dolphins? Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. How are they doing? How does the Cowboys roster look with Dak? Right. So I think if we're just looking at salary cap, looking at the percentage of the salary cap that's taken by 50+ million, and then you look, is this quarterback elite? Can he push the ball down the field? Does he have elite traits? Can he put the team on his back? And if the answer is no, you can't pay one position that much money. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, like, if you don't have an elite quarterback, you can win a Super Bowl if he's on his rookie deal. But if you don't have an elite quarterback and you're paying him top market money, you cannot win a Super Bowl. You can't. Because if a guy could win a Super Bowl making that much money, he's elite. And frankly, Brock, God love him, couldn't win a Super Bowl making $900K.
He maximizes what he can do, and it works if we looked at the defense, right? You got to also have an elite defense. Mm-hmm. So when a quarterback is on his rookie deal, the defense actually has to be top 5. So that's what they've had. The good news, though, hey, there's one more season. We get to see what he does. We get to see what he does maybe with a little bit less. And I guess at that point, the 49ers can make a decision. Are we going to make his dreams come true? Or is it time to maybe try to find somebody else who's elite? Because it's the NFL, right? This isn't Pop Warner. The goal is to find somebody like Josh Allen, like Patrick Mahomes, like Jalen Daniels even, right? These guys that are elite.
And the thing with like paying Brock all this money, if the Niners don't, what team would be clamoring to do it? Like what team would be like, oh, we want to give Brock Purdy $55 million a year. Like the Giants will just draft a quarterback. I don't see where the market is.
Well, it's not 50. I'll tell you that. It's probably more in the Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith territory.
And there's like, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Brandon Allen this weekend. If he plays relatively well, that could hurt Brock Purdy's value. But then there's guys like Jameis Winston in Cleveland who are just won a huge game in the snow against a really good team, not making a lot of money. I mean, if the options are give Brock Purdy $55 million a year or trade him or keep him and sign someone else and hedge your bets, it seems like you could have a pretty cheap quarterback room and not commit yourself to Brock Purdy, bring in Jameis Winston or someone from the draft and be better off.
I agree. And especially we could get into this, but what if the 49ers decide to move off of Shanahan and get a first-round pick, right?
You could argue that no one in the organization has more trade value than him.
He might even fetch 2 first-round picks. Who went for 2 first rounds? Was that Gruden?
It sure was. That was about 20 years ago. But yeah, he went for 2 1s and 2 2s and like $5 million.
Oakland would give all of that. I know they would.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we'll see about that. I want to talk about Kyle and Belichick a little bit. Hold on. What do we want to go through here? Oh, right. Okay, so Belichick is famous because he was the coach and the play caller on defense and the general manager. He was like the dictator of New England, and he made it work. Kyle really wants to be the Bill Belichick of the 49ers. He puts every single job on his plate. Is that a mistake? Should he not aspire to be the next Belichick?
I think we can all aspire to be these things, right? But Bill Belichick, how long was he coaching before he got all of that power, right? Before he got, hey, I have final say on the 53. I get to call the defense. I get to fire whoever I want. I get to trade whoever I want. This wasn't like his first rodeo when he got all of this power, right?
It's true.
I don't know if Jed York felt in order to land a good head coach, I got to do this. I got to concede this to him. I would assume that that's probably how he felt just on the heels of the last few coaches that the 49ers had to deal with. So I got to give him credit for at least like making that work. But it's very obvious to me. Just look at some of these first round misses. Just look at some of these extensions and how they've been handled. If the 49ers are going to make a move, and the reason this doesn't work for 49ers versus the Patriots is 2 things, right? Obviously, you have Tom Brady. The 49ers don't have Tom Brady. The other thing is, though, Belichick, look at all the people that he traded at the peak of their powers. You remember Chandler Jones was killing it. Richard Seymour was killing it. A couple cornerbacks.
Mm-hmm.
He was very good at keeping players at an arm's distance.
Yep.
And making sure that they just kind of didn't feel too close to him, right? Because if you're too close to somebody, if me and you are homies, we're best friends, it's hard to fire you.
Yep.
But if you're an acquaintance, it's easy to let you go or easier to let you go, right?
Yep.
And I think that's the main difference between maybe the Patriot way and how Bill was and how Kyle is. Even though the setups are the same, Bill didn't let personal feelings get in the way of business. And if he looked at a salary cap and he said, hey, I love this player, he's great, but he takes too much of the salary cap, I'm trading him a year early, which the 49ers could have easily done with Brandon Ayuk, I think, prior to the draft and probably got a first-round pick for him. Belichick would have done that. I know he would have done that, right? Because that's what the track record was. So I think like those are the 2 differences. And, we talk about maybe like what should the 49ers do? I think that the easiest thing is maybe you want to give Kyle 1 more year, but you got to change this power dynamic, this power structure that's clearly not working.
It's funny, like when Harbaugh was the coach, he didn't have nearly the amount of power that Kyle's had since day one. He wanted it, and I'm not sure it necessarily would have been good for him. I think maybe the fact that tension between him and Trent Baalke brought out the best in him. I don't know. But that's interesting. Like when you talk about the culture differences between Kyle and Belichick, Kyle's notorious for being friends with the best players on the team, vacationing with the best players on the team. Bill would never do that. And then it does seem like he gives preferential treatment to the best players. Like when the long snapper and the wide receiver get into it, Kyle takes the wide receiver's side. Whereas Bill was famous for like verbally undressing Tom Brady in front of the entire team to sort of make a point. Like he's not above anyone on this team. And this is how I talk to everyone. Everyone's equal.
Yeah. I mean, look at all the guys that got extensions, right? Is it the Cabo clique? Did they all get extensions?
Boy. Yeah, absolutely. Trent. Debo got renegotiated. Christian, yeah, Kyle's preferred crew.
People are people, right? We
Yeah.
like the people we like, and we want to keep these people around. But I think, like, at the end of the day, we're seeing kind of the results of that. We're seeing what a top-heavy team looks like. We're seeing what a team that misses on high draft picks early looks like. And the 49ers, if they're wise, I think the easiest thing that they can do is just shake up this power structure, bring in an actual GM. Love John Lynch. He's probably my favorite person in the organization, right? I mean,
Yep.
he seems like a guy that I don't know him personally, but he's easy to like.
Yep.
They need a GM who's a GM, who can walk into the room, who has final say, who says, these are the guys we're going to war with. And whether you like it or not, this is it. And I'm also evaluating you and your performance, right?
Yeah, somewhat like the Chiefs have a strong general manager. The Chargers have a strong general manager. The Ravens have a strong general manager. Like all these highly paid, like Andy Reid's making $20 million a year, but he has to answer to a general manager who has final say. So I think absolutely, I would agree. If they're going to keep Kyle Shanahan, they need to bring in a general manager who can have a lot of power. And I do think it's kind of interesting that, they had Adam Peters for a long time, and you always wondered, like, well, what does he do? Like, which players is he picking, and what kind of an impact does he have on the organization overall? He leaves. The Niners have their worst season in a while with just like organizational malfunction, dysfunction, and drama. And all of a sudden, Washington is like doing everything right. Like, yeah, I think maybe that speaks to a void in the 49ers front office.
And we talk about this too, right? The draft class this year was good, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was still all his work.
Correct.
Peters, that stuff happened a year ago, right? They're already starting to scout players, right? So we'll see moving forward what that looks like, but there's just been way too many early misses in the first and second round. And I think like the jury's still out on Pearsall. I think he has some elite abilities. There's just a lot of questionable picks.
Right? Yeah, and it's like, why? Because you mentioned it, with Peters and a true general manager, their scouting process starts when some of these players are like freshmen and sophomores. I'm sure when you were at San Jose, there were certain people looking at you, getting to know your teachers and your family pretty young. Kyle Shanahan turns on the tape in February and watches for a day. Says, I like his tape. Okay, but you don't know that guy at all, man. That's how you drafted Dante Pettis in round 2. You didn't know him at all.
You know what I always say when it comes to drafting a player, right? You got to know how good he wants to actually be. It's not about, okay, you're good in college, that's cool, but we've all seen a lot of people flame out, right? We've all seen a lot of people be good up to a point. Once you get into the NFL, it's like, how hungry are you? How important is the game to you?
Look at George Kittle. Look at Fred Warner. There's no question for them.
And these are all things that you can't get watching the tape. You got to sit, as Harbaugh says, knee to knee with somebody, right? Right. You got to really look them in the eye and figure out, what kind of person is this? It's hard to do that when you're scheming out plays, being the offensive coordinator, and trying to do everything.
And Harbaugh like knows what it looks like, what it takes, because he had it. He was in the NFL. He didn't coast on ability. He wasn't the most gifted quarterback of all time. He was a football junkie who worked really hard, and that is the main reason he had any success at all in the NFL. So I think a guy like that can probably, some of the time, recognize that trait, drive in other people. And Kyle, maybe he can too. I mean, like, to his credit, he did draft, or he was involved in the drafting of George Kittle and players like that. But too often he takes a guy early in the draft and is completely flabbergasted when he doesn't think he's as great as Kyle thought he was.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of those.
He compared Ricky Pearsall to himself. That was a red flag.
Yeah, I don't know, man. No comment on that one.
All right, let's stick with Kyle for a little bit more, and then we'll get to some sleeper picks. He is constantly working with a quarterback who's good, not great, or he's the best he's had is Matt Ryan, who is not exactly a Hall of Famer. Is Kyle sort of like, does he have bad luck? Is he doing the most with the least over here, or is there a reason he can't really land a truly elite quarterback?
Don't you think it's weird that he was enamored with Kirk Cousins? Like,
he still is.
Still loves the guy. That's weird. Like out of
Yeah.
everybody in the
Why is that
league,
your favorite quarterback? That's no one's favorite quarterback. Kirk Cousins isn't Kirk Cousins' favorite quarterback.
they didn't even want to give him a long-term deal, which is why they gave him the a series of 1 year. What were they called?
That was for franchise tags.
The franchise tag. Then they franchise tagged him again. That's like their own franchise saying, we don't want to actually give you a lot of money, so we're just going to give you a series of 1 year deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't he land an elite quarterback? So I played for Andy Reid for one season, half a season. The best, especially at that position. I also played quarterback growing up all the way through high school. Okay, so this was like my position. The best head coaches.
Did you ever play Julian Edelman in high school?
Julian Edelman and I played against each other in Pop Warner.
Okay, because you're the same age, right?
From like age 7 all the way to 12. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, I know he's from like Redwood City.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
he was Redwood City, Pop Warner. What were we talking about?
You play quarterback. Why Kyle Shanahan can't lead it? You play for Andy Reid.
Yep. The best head coaches, especially with this position, and Harbaugh was elite at this.
Yep.
They instill power in their quarterback. Yep. They make him feel like if the quarterback is baby Mario, they give him a mushroom and make him feel like big Mario, right? This is what the best coaches do at that position. It's a must. Harbaugh played quarterback. He gets it. Andy Reid, he was like a do you ever see Andy Reid in the punt, pass, and kick? You ever seen that video?
Yes.
He's a monster. So he obviously had some skill playing that position, but it's like the best coaches, that's what they do. Kyle, to me, seems a little too analytical, a little too structured, a little too make sure you're getting the ball out on time where you're supposed to all the time. But if we think about it, think about some of the best plays that Purdy's even done this season, or the best plays Mahomes did in the Super Bowl, or what he does. These are off script. Mm-hmm. I'm a baller. I'm in a playground. I'm just gonna make a play happen, right?
And Andy Reid says, "Good, do that. That's what I want you to do."
Doing that. We didn't coach you to do that, but God gave you this, and this is why you're successful. This is why you're killing it, right? And I don't think he recognizes how important that is at that position, which is why he didn't even scout Patrick Mahomes, right? Which is why he missed on Matt Stafford, I think. Stafford, I think, wanted to come to the 49ers for a second, and then he ended up going to LA, right? But I think he's too enamored with, you got to work within this structure. This is our offense. This is the way that we do things. And if you can do all of these things, in my eyes, you are elite. But if you look around the league, all the best quarterbacks, you think Josh Allen is doing that? You think Mahomes is doing that? You think Lamar Jackson is doing that? Well, they're doing it 60% of the time. The other 40, the big plays that we see on SportsCenter and on TV, these are just off script. Purdy's doing it too. But I think if you recognize those elite traits in those other elite quarterbacks, you would have drafted one already. You would have seen it and recognized how important it is.
I think what you mentioned, like they empower a quarterback. I think there's more that they do too. They instill confidence in a quarterback. I think a quarterback's confidence is fragile. They could lose it and never get it back. And you need that guy to be the most confident player on your team. And I think we saw it like with Harbaugh. He inherited Alex Smith. The guy had lost 100% of his confidence because he'd been with a bunch of different coaches who all blamed him for their incompetence. And then the main thing Harbaugh did for Alex was just, I think you're great. I think you're great. I think you're great. I'm Jim Harbaugh. I think you're great. And that went a long way. Andy Reid did that for Mike Vick after he came out of prison and everyone thought he was washed. Like, Andy Reid can really instill a lot of confidence. Good coaches can do it. And I think Kyle's more like, I'm the reason you're good, right? Don't sit there and think that you're actually good because you put up good numbers this week. Like, I schemed that for you. And I'm kind of like, between me and you, I'm kind of pissed about 3 plays. We need to talk about 3 plays that your quarterback rating was 139, but that, to me, that's Kyle. And like, maybe I think his dad was similar. I think someone like John Elway or Steve Young would appreciate the challenge, but because they were 2 of the most confident athletes ever in the history of the world. But if you're not on their level, Kyle can wear you down. I think he did with Jimmy. He might be doing it with Brock.
I think it's obvious. Would you want to work for Kyle every day? Right?
No, not one day.
You could tell right away. This is a boss that would be difficult to work for, right?
Oh my God, he'd call you every day. Hey man, why'd you do this again?
Always second guessing, kind of a micromanager, right? All these qualities we don't want in managers, like he has some of them because
Kyle's calling again. Hey Kyle, what's up?
He's too tight. He's too uptight. He has to be in control, right? There's too much of that. He needs to let go a little bit.
Geronimo 831, new member. Thank you. Dave Barkley says, "What's good, G? Love hearing how Lyle sucks from people in the know. Thank you for doing what you do, Fire Lyle." Harris says, "Mustard on the beat." Yes. Dave Barclay says, "When Josh Allen got paid, he said this money has been awarded, but now I need to go earn it every day. Do we have anyone like that is actually talented and not Brock? He's not elite." Kills like that. Warner's like that.
I think Bosa brings it.
I think he probably does. He gets a lot of angst because he makes so much money, but we did see what the defense looked like without him.
I think McCaffrey brings it when he's healthy.
That is true. He absolutely does. Can't say Debo does. Jawan Jennings does.
Jennings brings it.
All right, let's do some sleeper picks. Nope, that ain't it. Show is sponsored by Sleeper. So the first sleeper pick we're going to today, Brandon Allen. What an opportunity. He said, "You got to be careful when you're a backup and you get to play. I'm not happy. This is just terrible what's happened. But, it is pretty good for me." And anyway, Brandon Allen, what are we doing for him? Okay, hold on. 194.5 passing yards for Brandon Allen in Green Bay. What do you think? More or less?
Less.
Yeah. Sorry, Brandon. Debo, 12.5 rushing yards for Debo.
Less.
McCaffrey, is there anything we could know? Moody. 1.5 field goals from Moody. I'll go. God. I'm going to go more because I don't think they're going to be scoring touchdowns in this game. Jordan Love, 240. The interceptions is so easy money, though. So we just take it.
What is it? 0.5?
Yeah.
He's at least on one.
Yeah, I agree with that. Josh Jacobs, 73.5 rushing yards. Let's do rushing touchdowns. He has one in his entire career. I'm going to say no for rushing. Receiving touchdowns. Sorry. Josh Jacobs has one touchdown catch in his whole freaking career, and I guess it was a month ago. So no, Josh. Jaden Reed, 49.5 receiving yards.
I'm going over on that. I think he's going to have a big play.
I think so too. All right, let's stick there. Those are 6 picks. Flex it, submit the entry, download the app, use promo code Cohn. I'm giving away this signed Ricky Pearsall jersey in like 3 days. So I know you want it. All right, next question. So Jawan Jennings has sort of become the go-to guy in this passing game. It's really been Jennings and Kittle all year, and they're playing great. But one guy's a tight end, and one guy's about as fast as a tight end, and they really don't have an ability to stretch the field unless Brock Purdy holds the ball for 8 seconds or something. Do you think that the lack of downfield speed is hurting this offense?
Speed is one element of it. So basically, let's talk about like a downfield passing game, right? There essentially has to be 3 elements. You got to be able to protect.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, you're not going to be able to throw the ball down the field, right? So I think actually the 49ers in pass protection, I haven't looked at grades, but I actually think they're doing okay.
Yeah.
They probably need a new right tackle. They probably need a new center.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, though, they're actually holding up pretty well. The O-line's relatively healthy. I think they're protecting Brock better than average. The other thing that you need, and when IU got hurt, this is really what they don't have anymore. In order to throw the ball down the field, you got to have receivers that get open when it's press coverage on the outside one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just talking about running a slant and like catching the ball for 7. I'm talking about like you're going against a corner who runs 4-3 or 4-4. You got different releases off the line of scrimmage that get separation, and you can get on top of the corner. They call it stacking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can make a move off the line. We can stack on top of the cornerback, and we can threaten deep on the outside, right?
Right.
So let's
score a touchdown and make that guy never, ever, ever play you like that again.
And you only need to do it once a game, right?
Yeah.
You do it once a game. The defense, the safety, they got to think about it all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at the personnel. IU kind of was that guy.
Yep.
He can get open in man coverage. He's crafty. His speed maybe isn't elite, but he's fast enough. Fast enough. He goes down. Okay, Deebo Samuel's up. Deebo Samuel might be the most overpaid from a pure wide receiver standpoint. He has some elite traits after the catch, that nobody else has, almost like a bigger Tyreek Hill to a degree. But he doesn't do that. There's not one elite corner that's worried about him one-on-one on an island, getting open, beating them over the top at all. Right?
You can't put him on the line of scrimmage at X and say beat press. He wouldn't.
He wouldn't be able to do it, right?
No.
So we all know that. Let's look at the other guy they have, Juwan Jennings, who love the way he plays. I love his game. If he's my number 3 receiver, I'm stoked. I'm loving it. But he runs 4.7. I think he runs 4.7, right?
It might be 4.72, something like
something like this, right? His yak, he can break tackles. He's tough. He has good contested catches. But again, you think you're going to line up an elite corner on him, he's going to beat him over the top, and he's going to take it for a big play? He's not going to do that. You could put him in the slot like against the Rams. He can run a little out and up, be crafty, and then like go down the sideline. You could get deep this way, but I'm not talking about that, right? So just from a personnel standpoint, they don't have the wide receivers to beat one-on-one press man coverage against elite corners.
What do you see from Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowan?
We'll see. I think the jury is still out. I think they're small. I think Ricky probably has to get a little stronger. I think him and Ayuk have similarities in their games.
Ayuk's a lot stronger than Ricky. I can attest to that.
They still need a bigger guy like a George Pickens, right? Like a bigger guy that a DK Metcalf style receiver. Then the third element is Brock Purdy.
True.
And if we're just being honest about Brock Purdy, right? We talked about some of the things that he does well, some of those traits, the athletic ability. Brock Purdy is not sitting in the pocket. While he's sitting in the pocket, going through reads, seeing a guy on his third read 40 yards down the field with like a step of separation and just ripping it, right? That's not his game. And if you look at the elite quarterbacks, they all have that. They all have that.
Jordan Love can do that.
Jordan Love does it. Yeah, he does it a lot, right? Even Sam Darnold, I've seen this year, he's done it at times, right?
Yeah.
You have to have those 3 elements to have a downfield passing game, and the best teams in the league have that. So
they're
a
good answer. We've seen the last couple of weeks the Niners have been really 20 yards and in as far as throwing the ball. It's like they have that intermediate area where they'll run crossers or digs, and Purdy can usually throw that with some anticipation and accuracy, but the big plays are going to come after the catch from that point out.
And those aren't even happening. I mean, you got Juwan Jennings, he's breaking tackles, but he's not housing it. And Debo hasn't been Debo, and well, maybe he's always been Debo, but he hasn't been that 1 year Debo that we all saw that he's capable of.
Yeah, the Debo with the bag dangled right in front of his face. That was a different Debo. Okay, so it's bleak. 5-5. They're probably not going to win this weekend or make the playoffs this year. And yeah, they might have to rebuild this offseason, but where do the Niners go from here? What should be their next moves to like expedite this reload process as quickly as possible?
We kind of touched on this earlier, but if I'm being fair, if I was Eddie D, Kyle's done, right? We know this, but the Yorks are in charge, so give him one more season, right? Okay. I think that's fair.
But bring in a GM.
You got to do that. You got to shake up the front office. You got to show the fans that, hey, this isn't working. We had some success, but like we have to get over the hump. The goal is to get a 6th Super Bowl. The goal is not to win NFC title games and be in the playoffs, right? You got to bring in a GM, if anything, to take something off Kyle's plate and let the GM go to work. Give the GM one full season to evaluate Brock Purdy, to evaluate some of these veterans on longer deals and see, hey, do we want to go this direction? And if we don't, the following season, we talked about this, you trade Kyle Shanahan, you get a 1st-round pick, maybe 2. You're going into that first year with another GM with 3 first-round picks, and we're going to build through the draft.
Okay, let me ask you this. So that all checks out to me. On paper, in theory, that's a great way to go about it. Let's go back to reality for a second. You mentioned that just to get him on the team, Jed had to give him these powers right away. We're 8 years in. Jed pulls the rug out from him. Like, look, man, did it your way for a long time. I wrote every check you wanted. I never said no to you. I'm bringing in a general manager. You do not have carte blanche. I am taking away a lot of your power. Kyle says, cool, sounds good. I love you, Jed. I'll work real hard to please you. Or does he say, I mean, is there a world where he says, I resign? Trade me.
Yeah, there's definitely a
I
world.
mean, didn't he ask the Browns to let him out of his contract once upon a time 10 years ago? Didn't he do that?
I think he could do that, and that's a possibility. But the San Francisco is not the destination that it was 8 years ago when Kyle came in, right?
True.
Yeah, maybe it's not the number one job in the NFL, but it's probably number 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
So there's going to be a replacement, right? You're going to get somebody. You're going to bring somebody in who's quality. Is it Ben Johnson? Is it a list of all these coordinators that are incredible?
Kevin, it could be Bill Belichick.
It could be Bill Belichick. I wanted Sean Payton a long time ago, but it could be Bill Belichick. If they gave Bill Belichick the job offer with another first-round pick from Kyle, man, how can you say that the 49ers got worse in that deal?
I mean, you're not asking Belichick to start from scratch, which he didn't do a very good job of the last few years. He might be the perfect coach to sort of fix the Niners culture for reasons we detailed at length in this show. Part of me feels like he doesn't resonate with young players anymore, and part of me feels like he's exactly what this freaking team needs. Exactly what this team needs.
The defense would be so elite with Nick Bosa in the 3-4 off the edge.
Yep.
And Fred Warner playing one of those inside linebacker roles. They just need to get a 3-4 D tackle, but I would do it. So where do they go from here? I think, is that a possibility that he would resign? Yes.
Yep.
More likely is he would not like the conversation with Jed York and he would push back on it. But Jed York has to stick to his guns and say, this is what we're doing, right? The top guy has to call the shots. This is a tough shot to call, but you got to do it. You got to shake something up.
Yeah, and it's like, well, I resign. Okay, well, you don't get the next 5 years on your contract. Like, what do you mean you resign? That's the thing about coach contracts, is they're fully guaranteed. So if the Niners wanted to move on or something, they'd be paying Kyle allegedly $14 million a year for quite a long time. But if he says, hey, just let me out of my contract, you can start over, I'll go wherever I want, don't trade me, I want to pick my destination, be interesting. I wonder if he could do that. But he's about to win this weekend. Everything's going to be okay, Kevin. You're so negative. Jesus.
Are we going too hard on them? I think we kind of are we? We got two quality control members.
We've been going pretty hard on him. I've been going pretty hard on him all week. Dude, you lost to Seattle. You scored 17 points against Seattle. It feels like the lowest point of his tenure with the Niners this right now.
Maybe we're doing this stream at the wrong time, but it doesn't look good. Like the 49ers this season have looked awful. Let's be honest, right?
I mean, it's like you know about the Super Bowl hangover, but you're not supposed to miss the playoffs after going to the Super Bowl and bringing back essentially the same team.
You're not. The roster is talented. There have been some injuries, but what about the special teams? Have you ever seen a special teams have this many issues, like across the board, right? Like I'm talking block punts, big returns, fumbled kickoffs, fumbled punt returns. I mean,
anything that could go wrong does go wrong. It's across the board. And it's not like they neglect it. Moody, 3rd round pick, Wisnowski, 4th round pick. They spent a lot of money on George Odom. They think Tabor Pepper's the best long snapper. Like, they tried.
In OTAs, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm spending the first 3 days and we're literally doing nothing but special teams. We're doing punt coverage. We're doing punt blocking, kickoff coverage, all of these things. I just don't think they practice it.
I mean, must not be enough. What's funny is in the Super Bowl, Darrell Luter Jr., the gunner or whatever, gets like blocked into Ray McLeod, muffed a punt, Chiefs recover. And you think, man, the Niners are really going to address this and make sure it never happens again. They get rid of Ray McLeod, keep Darrell Luter Jr. Same thing happens to him a few weeks ago. And now it's Jacob Cowing who fumbles. Like, does feel like I hate saying fire the special teams coach when I don't exactly know what he's doing, but it doesn't seem like he can point to anything, any success in his unit right now. Hard to say.
The special teams coach should have got fired already.
The best you can say about the Niners special teams is like when they occasionally don't have an awful game. It's like, wow, special teams didn't cost them the game. You can't actually blame special. Like last week at Seattle, it's like, well, at least you can't blame special teams. All right, Lauren says, if I hear one more time that Kyle lost Super Bowls because of Brady and Mahomes, Nick Foles and Dougie P beat Brady, guys, come on. To me, Kyle lost those Super Bowls because he beat himself. You had leads in the second half, and you started passing like your quarterback was John Elway. Meanwhile, when your dad had leads in the second half with John Elway, he was running. So I don't know.
And all they needed was a first down, that final drive, just complete one more pass.
Yeah. Dave Barclay says Lyle and company are regressing. It'd be interesting to see who the personnel guy would be that they would bring in, how they would, what title they would give him, how they would sort of reassign John Lynch, how Kyle Shanahan would take it. What a very interesting offseason that would be, because it would be like a compromise. Kyle, we're not throwing you out, but we are your bosses, and we're very not happy about what just happened. So now we're micromanaging you. How does it feel?
I think they got to do it. Do we realistically think though they're not going to change anything?
See,
seriously though. Think about it. Let's say,
how do you change nothing and then ask?
Let's say they go 8-9, right?
Uh-huh.
Do you think they're not going to change anything?
It seems to me. How do you miss the playoffs and then turn around to your season ticket holders and say, "All right, we're up in prices, and this is a quest for 6." And forget last year. Last year was just. So what do you mean last year was just? It was awful, and this is the same team, and it's older now. Yeah, they got to sell hope a different way. I feel like you have to make a change. Otherwise, there's no hope to sell.
You got to get better. I mean, look at the division. Do you think this is Seattle's first year with a new head coach? Look at them. Look at Arizona.
Remember this offseason when someone asked Kyle, "Do you think you got better?" And he said, "Well, we didn't get worse." That was a tip-off.
What a weird
because you're either getting better or you're getting worse.
He said that?
He said, "We didn't get worse, and that was our goal." When you get a team like this, a team this good, it's hard to get better. Oh, boy. You better find a way.
That's crazy.
It's like he just disqualified himself from the general manager job right there. Hey, I couldn't make the team better. I want to be the first to let everyone know the team is not better, and I made the executive decision. It's just impossible. I tried.
We had free agency. We had a draft, but we didn't get better.
Yeah. I made a lot of decisions. We spent a lot of money. The Yorks were very generous. Between us, we're no better than last year. But we should be good enough, even though last year wasn't good enough. But I'm feeling good. All right. So because we were so, as you said, hard on Kyle, he's for sure watching right now, and he's going to win tomorrow. So, Kyle, make us eat our words. Can't wait. I'm actually flying out there to see this. So I'm all for you, making it interesting. Although I'm feeling 30-10.
You're really flying to Lambeau Field?
Dude, I'm flying to Chicago tonight. I'm waking up at like 7 a.m. and driving up to Green Bay and then driving back in the same day. All to watch Brandon Allen.
Have you been to Green Bay?
A few times.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's a schlep.
We played, when I was with the Bears, we played against the Packers on Christmas Day. And it's crazy because Lambeau is like a legendary scene, right? It's like in the middle of just a neighborhood. Like
it's so weird.
Cruising in Oakland, and all of a sudden, like there's houses, and all of a sudden, boom.
It's like it feels like San Leandro. I don't know how well you know, but it's like just like this little tiny suburb with a bunch of houses that haven't been renovated since 1955, and it's like, I could probably buy that house for like $300,000. Boom, boom, boom. Oh snap! That's the most iconic stadium. It's incredible. It's pretty cool, and like you can park on their lawns for like $10. It's like a whole little economy. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Are you going to do that? Oh no, you're taking the Uber.
I'm going to have free parking because I'm in the media. It's one of the perks I get. I'm not taking a 3-hour Uber from Chicago. I'm literally renting a car and driving from Chicago to Green Bay tomorrow and then driving back. It's like driving from my house to Tahoe to cover a game and then coming back at night. I regret it.
And you didn't want to fly out yesterday?
Why did I? I think I wanted to save money
this morning or something.
I wanted to save money or something. I don't know. I instantly regret it. I should have just spent the extra $200 to not have to do that. Dave Barkley says 7-10. Set it after week 2. It's coming. Best guess.
Are you asking?
I think 7 and 10 sounds about right. Yeah.
7 and 10. Damn, that would be rough. I think 8 and 9.
Kevin, great stuff. Thank you very much.
Hey, I'm glad we linked up, man.
Definitely. We'll do it again sometime. Thanks for watching, everyone.